All right. So thank you all for joining. This is the Threat Modeling Working Group, July 9th, 2025. And Izar is going to make his presence known. Yay. This is
Think I
call
dragged him
number
in.
call number 2 I've had with Izar today.
Here I
Oh,
am,
jeez.
rock me like a hurricane. Yeah. Anyway,
People are starting to talk, Steve. Okay, you too. I don't know. All right.
yeah,
I don't know.
but this is actually the one that counts because on this one I actually have a clue about what we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah,
on the other
true.
one, it was a lot of like it was your typical Travolta talk where somebody starts talking and everybody else goes.
You are your own meme.
True.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the call before this that we were on was very fluffy, very high level. Still not a lot of substance to it yet. Don't spit out your coffee, man.
Yeah, very fluffy is the best. I just had a fluffy call.
Not cute as in puppy dog fluffy, just
Yeah.
full of air right now.
Like we really want to build something called XYZ. What's that?
Right.
That we don't know, but we're gonna call it XYZ.
Exactly.
I feel like we're all third wheels right now.
Hey,
All right.
we are bringing you into the joke without giving you the details.
Exactly. We're sparing her the details. You're welcome. All right. So I wanted to kind of what was it, like a month ago? We rescoped the threat modeling capabilities as well as the blueprints work that we're also working on. We kind of rescoped those to CycloneDX version 2. So we're trying to get 1.7 out the door. Shoot, I got someone at my door right now. Hold on one moment.
Got a thermometer here, 26.5 degrees in my kitchen.
Which scale we're talking about?
Oh, it's not Fahrenheit.
Why is it 80 degrees Fahrenheit in your kitchen?
No, I'm on the sensible temperature scale.
Yeah, I think it's unusually warm in the UK these days.
Yeah.
Not
All right,
only,
sorry
not
about
only.
Well, I'm just loving it because all the idiots here in the United States are, the climate deniers are now getting a little taste of the fact that, while they may not believe in climate change believes in them. And
oh yes, it does.
oh yes, it does.
Our climate change just doesn't care.
I'm just waiting for hurricane season. That's unfortunately.
I just need my air conditioning to believe in warming. That's all.
Literally, when I moved here to Las Vegas, one of my considerations was all of the things that could happen: no earthquakes, no flash floods, all right, no hurricanes. It's like, it can get hot here. Well, what they don't want to
It's
deal
Vegas.
with that. We don't want to deal with that. I have a pool. I walk out, jump in the pool.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're trying to do with 2.0 is we are modularizing the schema in a way where we are going to be focusing on reusability as well as being able to bring people into the fold without having to adopt the entirety of the specification, because the specification is quite large. And this means that in the future, you'll be able to use just one of the schemas that you see here. And these are so not final. This is prototypes at best. Most of these things are empty right now. But you'll be able to adopt the schemas on an individual basis, Or you can, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be compiling the schemas down into one complete schema, basically kind of what we do today, right? We deliver one humongous schema that is the entirety of the CycloneDX specification. We're still going to be doing that, right? That's not going away. So if you're developing tools or whatever, you'll be able to have just that one schema and you won't have to worry about the individual ones. But if you only want to adopt the one little thing, that is also an option. From a development perspective, this is going to give us a really interesting opportunity, because essentially for every net new feature, right, we could theoretically have its own little schema, right? That doesn't really conflict with the rest of CycloneDX, and we can leverage all the other schemas as building blocks, which is kind of how it's organized. I know Petra has, and we've looked at it a lot recently, the more traditional, I'm going to say traditional threat modeling work in terms of being able to support threats and weaknesses and data flow diagrams and in that sort of thing. I tried to spend a little bit of time coming from the entirely opposite approach, looking at instead of like that stride model, start looking more at that pasta-ish model. Because again, what we're trying to develop is methodology agnostic. So over the last couple of days, so first of all, there's a branch in here now. So we've got a branch. We have a 2.0 dev branch, first of all. And then we have a branch off of that, which is the 2.0 dev threat modeling branch. Okay. So we'll see how this goes. This is the first group that's actually doing this, because 1.7 is still in development. So we'll see how this branching strategy goes. But anyway, I've got within here, I've got currently two files that are specific to, oh yeah. So I've got the use case schema and I've got the threat schema, and there's not a lot in either one of them. I wanted to talk about a little bit, go through the use case schema first. If you've ever looked at Pasta, it basically starts breaking it down in terms of, hey, what does the application do? What are the supporting use cases? And then it starts asking you, like, what are the things that are most important to you when you're doing the threat model? Any questions with how things are organized right now, without getting into the details of this, but just
a couple of general questions. When you say you pointed at the use case, is that sort of generic to sort of use cases across the entire
yes,
application?
yes, yeah. So what we're going to be doing is, for example, all the different capabilities that we typically would have in a threat model, again, methodology agnostic. We could use the use cases in a threat model. We could also apply use cases to a component, right? This component supports these use cases, right? So yes, we're talking about use cases in a threat modeling perspective, but generally it's going to be applicable to a lot of other places in CycloneDX as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can see stuff like sort of cryptography in the list there. But what about sort of things like attestations? are they bundled in somewhere there, or is it just missing because it hasn't yet been added?
No, it looks like it's missing. Again, this is really rough. Like I said, most of this stuff is actually blank. So,
Right.
you know, this has yet to be filled in. I think the only one that's really filled in right now is common. Where's common?
Yeah, Steve, I'd love to do a working session
here's
with if you want to set time aside to go through all these.
Yeah.
So I've done my own breakdown in my own utility as well. So I work backward. I work backwards to figure out what was common. But anyways.
Yeah. So this is the common schema that I currently have, which again is, you know, can be pretty much applicable to a lot of different things. So media types and attachments and, you know, all the different ways that you, so this is external references, right? These are all common type of things. The one thing I do have in here, however, is, no, where's it at? Oh, it's right here. So what this right here is, or actually just, yeah, right here. What this is a compromise. And right now we use CycloneDX properties as name value pairs. So like if the schema doesn't support like a field natively, you can use CycloneDX properties and stuff the values in there. And for very simple things, it makes a lot of sense. JSON by definition is not extensible, however. It is not XML. We can bash XML all day long in terms of its security vulnerabilities, but guess what? It has so many more features than JSON schema does, it's pathetic. One of the features is extensibility. It's quite literally in its name, and JSON is not. It is currently impossible to have a hardened JSON schema and have some kind of mechanism to have a little bit of extensibility. What this is a way around that. That is not necessarily going to be supported in all of the JSON validators. However, it would be very simple for you to validate this. What this is a way for you to define your own, essentially you're defining your own namespace. And when you do that, you also then have to, if it's a object or an array, for example, you then also have to provide the schema for where that thing is located. So that if you do optionally want to validate that thing as you would normally would, you know exactly where to get that schema from. So again, this is non-standard, but that's kind of what we're doing here with extensibility. So, because we are moving to a JSON only model with CycloneDX 2.0. So it was important for us to be able to have a little bit of extensibility, given the fact that we're no longer going to be supporting XML. And for the protobuf folks, we're going to continue supporting protobuf, but what we're doing there is we're automatically generating the protobuf definitions from the JSON schema, which is actually fairly easy to do. So that's kind of where we're going. So it's going to be a JSON first specification. It's going to be entirely modular. It will be quote unquote extensible-ish. And we will provide some guidance on how to validate the extensibility. But yeah.
It's something I've been asking since early days of becoming aware of Cyclone. So thanks, Steve.
You're welcome, Matt. I thought of you as I was writing it. I'm like, how can the hell can I do this? But yeah, like I said, a lot of these things are quite literally empty. So there still needs a lot of work. One thing that you will notice is the name change. Again, this is not necessarily written in stone yet, but the current specification is the CycloneDX bill of materials specification. We're kind of rebranding that to the CycloneDX transparency expression language. A lot of the stuff that we're working on with 2.0 and even 1.7 has nothing to do with bill of materials. If you look at CycloneDX attestations, has nothing to do with bill of materials. If you look at the patent information, again, going into 1.7, nothing to do with bill of materials. All the threat modeling information and behaviors that we're working on with 2.0, again, nothing to do with bill of materials. So we're trying to reframe this as a transparency expression language. Again, the name is subject to change, but that's kind of what we're going with.
So I have a question just to try and understand. So basically what you're doing is you're providing the pieces of the puzzle, and whoever wants to use it puts those pieces of the puzzle together.
That is
create a
one
threat
option.
model.
That is one option. However, if you do want the easy button, we're going to be providing these schemas that have everything in them, just like what we do today. So if you want the easy button and you don't want to you don't want to mix and match, you have one schema to choose.
But if I wanted to, let's say, represent a threat model similarly to, the way that I was representing it on the schema before, how would I go and do that? Would it be with the shortcut button, or how would I choose if I just want to, I did a threat model and now I want to release the output? What do I do?
The threat model, you could do it one of two ways. If you wanted to do the a la carte model where you're using only the schemas that you need, you're going to need multiple schemas, right? You're going to need the threat model schema. You're going to need the use case schema. You're going to need a bunch of other schemas, the common schema, the component schema, the services schema. You're going to need quite a bit. Or you could do which is fine. That's the a la carte model. Or you could do the easy button, which is like one of these.
And can you click on one of those?
They don't exist
like?
yet. They don't exist
okay.
yet. They we're basically going to be using AJV, which is a JavaScript JSON validator and tool. And what it can do is it can merge schemas together while taking care of all the references. So we're going to compile all these sub schemas into one distributable schema, actually two distributable schemas. We've got one that's going to assume the existing file-based thing, which is kind of what we have today. And we've got another one that is specific for the APIs.
And this will apply to all of the CycloneDX parts. It's not
I'm sorry. These
everything.
Right, these are the two. Yeah. So the combined schemas right here, these are the ones that are going to be compiled. So these things, when they exist, will contain all the information, all the schema information from all these individual schemas into one combined thing.
So if I wanted the schema that I've created to become like compatible, I would need to take these parts and reference them, or how would that work?
I'm not sure I follow.
So let's say that I have a few threat modules on, the project that I created, and they're in that schema that you've seen, and I want to make sure that it's compatible with the TM or CycloneDX schema. How would I make sure that that's the case? Do I look at these individual components and just make sure that they're represented through that way?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. Yeah. you know, we're going to have some kind of mapping between the two projects at some point, right? And eventually, hopefully, you know, if this is successful, move everything to this format. But yeah, we'll just make sure that like and you can do it with the existing specification, honestly. Because like for components and services, for example, none of that is really going to change all that much. Where they're located in the files are going to change, but you know, for the most part, I mean, with a few minor exceptions, 2.0 is going to be backward compatible with 1.x, right? We're not making major changes here. Structurally, there's a ton of changes because we want to bring more people into the tent, right? But, you know, from a specification perspective, there's not a lot of major changes.
So,
And-
sorry, go on, Petra.
I just wonder, is this an extensive list of components that you created, or like there could be more?
Oh, there's going to be more. Absolutely. And some of these might actually go away. I don't know, for example, like I don't know if there is a need for model parameters and a model card. I don't know, or if can I just do one? I don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, my concern, and maybe it mirrors Petra's to some degree, which is from a organizational point of view, I like thinking things in terms of I'm creating this type of bomb, like a vulnerability or an ML bomb or a formulation bomb, to have, you know, making sure that there's a way to say, if I'm creating an independent document that represents just that bomb, that it brings in all the common components together. So, but you know, I understand what you're saying in terms of the breakdown, what's core and what's common. I think that there is a separation there, but figure out what the right size. Again, what's the right menu size? It feels
Right.
like the menu size is a bit large today.
Exactly. It's one big buffet.
Yeah, I think you phrased it well, Matt, because what I'm trying to think of, like, if someone wants to generate a threat model, what is like a minimum that we want them to have based on this? Do they need to put all of it in? I mean, obviously, you know, in a utopic world, this will be all generated by tools. But I'm just thinking right now, when, you know, we're still not in that perfect world, how would we get all this information in? And then, you know, make sure that we still got enough information, but, you know, we're not asking too much.
Yeah, I think the breakdown is not exactly you know, this is based upon programming this backwards for my validator. It's like, it's based upon, I know that if I'm creating a manufacturing bomb formulation, that I need service, I need all these things. So just because we shouldn't break it out just because it's a large object like service. That's kind of my opinion. To me, that's still core, if you will. Anyways.
So I didn't want to focus too much on the modules, because this is, you know, these are going to change, right?
Yeah, so,
this is just what I currently have now.
Completely support this path. Completely support it. If we add primary keys.
Right.
But before you move off of these modules, though, you've got interesting ones like threat, use case, and vulnerability. Threat and vulnerability together at the same time. That's an interesting one. But you don't have mitigations on there. I mean, when you want to include.
We haven't got to that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, again, you know, figuring out the granularity, you know, how big or small is something going to be to warrant its own file? I don't know. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
It's all going to end up in the same schema anyway, right? So from a end user perspective, it honestly doesn't matter all that much, because most users are going to be using these combined schemas. That's what we're going to be promoting. But we're also going to be doing the a la carte thing. So if you want to do that, that's available to you. But again, these are the easy buttons. These are currently what we have today. I just don't know what level of granularity. For example, is this threat thing all of threat modeling? I don't know. Including mitigations? I have no idea. We'll get to that when we get to it, though.
Yeah.
So you say that there's backwards compatibility, and that means that sort of with a sort of one button thing that you were just talking about, that is what's going to make it easy for somebody who's got tooling which, say, today supports 1.6, or in 6 months' time it supports sort of 1.7, and then 2.0 comes out. But would the kind of a la carte thing be more appropriate, say, for the new tool where they've actually got a lot of interest in being like very, very focused?
No, I mean, again, if you're a tool creator, it's just easier to use the combined schema. I mean, it's,
100%.
I mean, if you don't care about CycloneDX, if you don't care about bill of materials, or even if you are using a competing standard but want to leverage one of the individual sub schemas, you're going to be able to do that now. That's really what that's intended for.
Yeah,
Without going into the, yeah.
I was gonna say that's exactly for my tool, I don't want to have to like manually, because I have to have an offline mode, so I need to be able to run the validation, a lot of things offline. I want to bring in one file. I want to reference one file, and all these schema validating libraries. I don't want to have to load all these things into these, because these schema validators get very confused when you start loading extra schemas after the initial one. So anyway.
Exactly. Which is why, one of the reasons why we're kind of doing this approach as opposed to doing something like JSON LD, which is kind of a mess. Yeah, it's horrible. And I think the other camp is kind of finding that out the hard way.
There's just no tools for JSON LD. That's the thing. There's just no tooling. There's just
the tooling is limited. Where you can deploy it is limited, like air-gapped environments, forget about it. Right. It has a lot of limitations. There's a reason why. I mean, academically, the semantic web makes a lot of sense, but there's a reason why nothing is semantic like that. It's too hard.
Those calls, I kept wanting to point out that even the people who invented semantic web gave it up. So
right.
In 2019, for that matter. But anyway.
Yeah. But I did want to go through a little bit of the use cases. Again, there's and Matt, you're going to see some stuff in here that, well, why didn't you do that? Like on bomb ref, like, why don't you refer to common? I will. I haven't got there yet. I just wanted to kind of go through maybe the use cases today. And if we have time, go through, I've got, this is the only thing I have in threat. I wanted to extend the typical CIA model because it doesn't really cover the majority of what we actually care about. And even Pasta extends CIA because they need to. So I wanted to, if we have time, kind of go through this as well and see if there's anything that's maybe missing in there. So for use cases, and again, this could apply to a threat model. This could apply to a component itself. Doesn't really matter. I have a name of a use case, description of what it does, and who the actors are.
What about what the actors can do?
Yep. I
Like
don't know if I have that in
permissions.
here. Permissions. I don't have that in here. Okay.
Wait, that's a generic use case?
What's that?
It's like a generic use case?
This is a generic use case, right?
Then I would really like to have some form of what's coming into it and what's going out of it. And what elements would it be touching?
Let me go through the rest of it and kind of walk you through it. What conditions need to be in place for this use case to even be executed? Right. For example, in order to update my profile, I first have to be able to log in. Right. That might be a precondition. Post conditions. What happens? What is going to be true after this use case has executed? I'm not happy with this. I like the idea of flows, but I want to give them kind of a priority. So what are the sequences of steps that actually occur to execute this use case? Right. And the use case could be executed in a number of different ways. I took the easy way out, at least initially, and saying, well, this is the main way, but there's a bunch of other ways. In reality, I'd like maybe this to be a ranked order, right? So maybe one is a little bit more important than maybe another flow, which is more important than maybe yet a different flow. Error scenarios that may occur during the execution of the use case. Success criteria. And this will be the reference to the common notes. And then Matt, this will be the reference to the common CycloneDX properties. So that's what I currently have for a use case.
No, I love it. I think I'm envisioning where you using the if then logic available to us that we might create profiles at a bomb type level. So
yeah,
that's what I'm
So are
envisioning.
this misuse cases or use cases or both?
These are use cases. However, what I plan to do, and keep this in mind, when we're talking about a threat model, I want to support the negative version of this.
Abuse
So-
cases, I think we need,
So-
yeah.
Right.
But by just adding a discriminator in there, you could have if this is a positive or a negative case.
Right.
So a use or abuse. Still, the fields that you went over, they look to me very almost state machine-like, jumping from one thing to another. But I don't think that I saw anything there that mentions the data. What gets transformed by it, what goes in.
Yep.
And that to me is...
and the nature of the data.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like we're going back to data flows, isn't it? Like what
Yeah, I don't want to
happens?
get it. I don't want to get into data flow, but I do think representing what
it's-
kind of data a use case requires, I think it is valid, right?
But look, it's not really a data flow because you're not saying which data, where is it coming from and where is it going to. It's more about the data transformation. This use case gets this piece of data and transforms into this piece of data. And as part of that, you can start making implications of, okay, do I have a jump in data classification here? Am I losing privacy stuff? Am I adding privacy stuff, right? So it's more about the data transformation than the flow across the system.
So that's jumping on that topic, Steve, and an addendum after that. So if you look at formulation, the core of formulation is a workflow.
Right.
So, and at every point in a formulation model, the basics of it are input information, a resource processes it, and produces an output. That's the basis for the formulation schema, right? Use cases could mirror that and perhaps maybe even reuse what's in formulation, because I think my addendum is that we acknowledged a couple of meetings ago, and I think this is going to be true, this is true for everything, is that we're talking about an application development lifecycle where we go from design, to build, to actually deployment and actually running, right? So in terms of, both the schema design and modularity, and, I think that we need to think in terms of designing these schemas, so that there's data that goes into creation. I mean, and if you look at the OWASP threat model, I've got a slide I could throw up, but I can save that for the end. I'd love to throw it up. But it is all about data. It is really all about data. You basically pass things from a storage thing, you bring it into an application, and then you send it to an AI, and you load an AI, you train an AI model, or you bring the data and train the model, and you run it, you deploy it as an agent, and the agent gets some of the data from someplace else. It's all about data ingress, egress, and some resource acts upon it, right? And a resource, and we acknowledge a resource could be a person too. So it could be a manual resource too. So that would be inclusive of use cases that where a human initiates something or intervenes in the middle of a process as well.
Right. The it's going to be interesting how we define the limits of a use case, because we don't want to support like the comment that was made earlier, data flow diagrams, right? That's not what the use case is trying to achieve. So figuring out what that level of granularity is in order to support a generic use case is, I think, going to be the hardest part of this.
Yeah, what my point is that if you have a higher level of granularity for a use case, using the same data schema to compose something at a high granularity for a use case, using the same schema that can map into a concrete schema like a threat model schema or a formulation schema would be beneficial. So they're using the same data objects, basically. That's my point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I do want to refactor a little bit the MBOM stuff, specifically the workflows and steps. We had to we had to do some unfavorable things, and it became very verbose as a result.
Yeah.
And I want to fix that in 2.0 and make it modular so we can use those in other places.
I'd love, and again, I'm volunteering.
I'm assigning you work.
Yeah, well, so I love to be assigned work, but as you know,
I know.
I like having somebody look over my shoulder like a pair programmer to tell me I'm making the right decisions.
Yeah. So I'm setting myself up for work.
So
I mean,
Steve,
I can fly to Chicago if you want, Steve, but we'll see.
All right, right on.
I mean, this topic of use cases and then, other things like activity diagrams and all those kind of things has all been settled in model-based systems engineering. And I keep bringing this up over the meetings, but UML, SysML, Arcadia, these should all be references for what you're doing here. And they've worked it out over the last 3 decades. So I think they're pretty mature at this point. So those are areas. Now, if we want to throw something on top of it that is security related, a couple of things, sure. But I think the main part of this should all be handled by model-based systems engineering already. So I think that'd be a great reference for you.
I think I like sticking to the concrete representation we have in Cyclone because it's meaningful to people, to the domains we're talking about. We can give it meaningful names. These things can always be mapped to UML. So I think that's an excellent exercise for somebody to volunteer to do.
Yeah, I think supporting an external reference for a use case that would be modeled in UML, I think would be fine.
I'm saying steal from the definition of what a use case
oh,
is.
steal from the okay.
Okay.
Borrow.
Take full advantage of what they've done over the last 30, 40 years to define these.
I think
bring that information in.
I guess what I was trying to say is I like the fact that we are applying concrete terminology for the domain of CycloneDX around security and compliance and all the domains that we're working in. And I like keeping those names. And with UML, I see more disjointedness in terms of there are lots of different disjointed domains. So if we adopt a use case domain, it's not necessarily can be joined to a formulation domain, or it's harder. It's harder.
I think I will look at some of the existing specs and get inspiration from them for sure. So that I have not done yet, Chris. Excuse me. I have not done. And I intentionally did not do that because I wanted to do the brain dump first, and not get confused by what's been done in the past.
In particular, there's an interchange format the name of which escapes me at the moment, but I'll email you when I remember it. It's all in XML. It's that old.
Yeah, I put up the Vampire's Cross. I'm getting back. And when you said the interchange format, I was like, no, please, no, please.
No, but the point, Matt, is that it would have all this delineated, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I think I like the way Steve phrased it. Use it, learn from the past, make sure that it's mappable.
Definitely.
But
yeah, I'll take inspiration from it. If you can figure out the name of that, Chris, and just send it my way, that'd be great. Yeah. And I'll take another look at UML. I mean, I outside of like modeling like class structures and stuff like that, I haven't used UML outside of like that. I know it can do it, but I haven't personally done it. I know Matt's an expert in UML though, so I'll hit him up. One of the things that I think it's also going to be important for us to support, and we already support it in CycloneDX already, but this is a screen. This is a the fork product from Versprite. So it's a pasta based tool, and one of the things they ask up front is where in the development cycle are you, right? Which I think is really important. We support this with CycloneDX already with life cycles. But I think it's really important to capture this information in a threat model, because depending on the life cycle, the what are you going to do about it can be dramatically different based on where it's at. So you could have you could have the same threat model with different life cycles, and the mitigations would be entirely different. So think about the ability to decouple this. So you have a single threat model, your mitigation, so you've identified all your threats, but each of the threat models have a different life cycle. Again, same threats exist, different life cycle. Your mitigations are then decoupled, and they would be entirely different for each of the threat models because of where they are in the SDLC. So that's something that I absolutely want to support in Cyclone 2.
You're saying that's the
So
sort of... Go on.
Do you have required fields at the end, or is it just kind of
that is
any?
so historically, so CycloneDX has historically been prescriptive in the fact that the structure of the format has been prescriptive. However, the use of the fields have not been, and that has been to our advantage. What we plan to do is, so we already have the SCVS bomb maturity model. And that maturity model supports the idea of profiles which live outside of a JSON specification. So the idea is that, in an organization, a certain type of stakeholder is going to care about certain types of data. And like if you're doing application security, the type of fields that you care about are going to be very dramatically different than somebody that does maybe operational security, or a legal team who focuses solely on open source licenses is going to have specific fields that they care about, which are going to be dramatically different than maybe a team that does mergers and acquisitions. But that team also does open source licenses, but the fields themselves are going to be entirely different. So putting requirements on certain fields makes a lot of assumptions that we don't necessarily want to make. We want to, if we can, we want to externalize the requirements on certain data to profiles, which would live outside of the spec. And we could theoretically do that using either JSON pointer or JSON path to accomplish that.
Along with, yeah, I was going to say, and if we can actually get things across the finish line, software component verification standard profiles.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yep. So I'll give you an example, right? The weaknesses that we're going to be supporting in the threat modeling capabilities, the weaknesses themselves should be able to exist outside of a threat model, right? I should be able to apply weaknesses to a cryptographic cipher in a cryptography bill of material without necessarily having a full-blown threat model. So how do we achieve all these different use cases? Again, bringing more and more people to the table. having a lot of required fields, I'm not a big fan of. It's one of the reasons I think it still exists today, but CycloneDX, for example, on a component like a piece of software, doesn't require a version, and there's a really good reason for that. NPM doesn't require versions. And in fact, NPM actually has this concept of anonymous packages. You technically don't even need a name for the software. And I thought that was too far. You at least need to name the thing. But yeah, versions are optional. Even though we all want them, they're all necessary for vulnerability intelligence. They're all necessary for, inventory management. But the amount of people that you leave behind by requiring version is pretty extraordinary. So we have to be kind of cognizant on the use of required fields, in my opinion.
No, I get that. I think especially if you have a modular approach, it kind of defeats the purpose then, having required fields.
But we can use like JSON path or whatever, or the SCVS profiles to define like what would be required for a threat model. And we can do that
like what's a
outside
happy
of the
path?
specification.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think that what I found is the most important thing is that every detachable object or structure has to have a clear identifier and key, so it can be properly referenced when detached recouples, or if you look at it from a different temporal perspective, you have a software product in the design time versus runtime. You need to have clear identifiers to allow the temporal mapping from different bomb types.
Yeah. And for objects in JSON, that's easy, right? But for individual properties, that's a lot harder because
but you as long as you can have a key, a primary key, and enabling the advanced, or what do you call it, enhanced properties, I think that enables that if I need that. So
yeah, no, I'm just talking about like the individual fields. Like
the properties, JSON properties.
Yeah. Sorry, overloading my words here. But yeah, again, because XML has attributes, so you can give every single element an ID if you wanted to. You can't do that in JSON. It doesn't exist.
That's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that, although we've kind of pushed JSON and we've all kind of standardized on it, there's a lot of trade-offs in that decision. So, how best we adapt to that, I think, is going to be critically important. In fact, Matt, we need to talk to Jan about the JSON pointer and JSON path thing with relation to MBOM and citations.
Yeah.
So I think we have a path forward. I think I know what it is. I think it just needs to be clearly communicated to Jan.
Yeah, I sense confusion, but he was okay to take it offline. So we just have to schedule it offline time.
Yeah.
I was going to ask for if time to advertise a work group or a committee that might be interesting to this work group. If you can spare the floor for 1 minute at the end, Steve.
Yeah. Let's do it now because I have to drop at the top of the hour.
Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen if I remember how to do so with Zoom. I think I have to do a double confirmation if I recall correctly. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
So you're watching my CI in place, building an AI model. All right. So this is what I want to show. This is a one-page slide that I created last Thursday and gave it to my director, which was presented yesterday at the governing board for the LF and Data Foundation. I was asked to chair the reformation of the what was originally called the ML Security Committee. I renamed it to Security and Compliance Committee, and I want to strongly base the work that we're doing, especially against using threat models. And so I would love. I have not scheduled the new meetings. I think we're going to have meetings twice a month. Again, I have not scheduled them, but if you're interested in participating, This is the mission statement I crafted. We'll be ratifying this mission statement. I'll be designing some initial work streams around these 4 layers that I have, layers of the layer cake. We have a very strong group of people who are basically the entire CNCF security technical advisory group is coming over to work under this committee. And I'm going to give them, they want to work on OSCAL and NIST controls. So I want to formulate a strong group that works out in CycloneDX and OWASP threat models, and then hands it off basically to the group who's skilled in OSCAL to do their thing. So that's my goal. And I know that the best minds to mine for and ask and beg for our participation is right here. So please send me a message, send me a Slack. Let me know you're interested. But I'm gonna, like I said, I imagine we're gonna have 4 work streams under the committee, and I'm looking for leadership worker bees to lead those efforts. And as you know, agentic AI, there is no application. This is what what I was referencing earlier as backup. So basically this is the ingress egress. So like, here's all the things that all the areas of red I want to tease out and develop even further at the next zoom in at the next level, and have use cases and threat models at each of those instances that can be pulled together to represent the entirety of the threat model you face with an agentic application, which is going to be the norm going forward in the world. So please consider joining. Thanks.
I'm thinking, and this is something where some of my Japanese colleagues need to get involved, because I attended a kind of webinar today with talking about some of the stuff that they're actually developing. And I mean, it's all like agentic AI. So they actually did a demonstration where basically they had one AI agent attacking and one defending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's uncommon. We actually, I see the norm. I think, part of the mission statement, I took it off, apologies, is we intend to, make recommendations and in terms of using AI to fight AI or to enforce security and compliance. So that is definitely part of the mission statement. And we want to put out best practices and things like that as well. But, again, when you say application today, the implication is you have AI in there someplace. And more is going to be some agentic AI framework that employs many models at, from all the ingress and egress points of data everywhere, including judging the output of other models. And so they can judge or monitor for compliance or security outputs from one agent to another. So, yeah.
So the stuff you just showed, is that published yet or about to be
No,
published?
that was showed to the governing board yesterday. So again, I'm going to be gathering a short list of names of people for the formation meeting. And I will probably schedule that probably starting for maybe early August. I decided I don't have the runway for July.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah. But
Sounds
reach out.
interesting. I'll reach out to you on Slack, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Oh, 1700. It's top of the hour. We got dependency track community meeting just starting.
Oh, yeah. I need to present to the CISO now, so wish me luck on that. But thank you all for attending. Next time we meet up, I like it to be more of a working session. We can actually like focus a lot more on the technical aspects of what it is that we're trying to do. But in the meantime, take a look at the 2.0 dev threat modeling branch, and I'll see you on Slack.
Right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.